Hey everybody, I'm back. Vincent is back to share his story about his journey out of the Watchtower Society, out of Jehovah's Witnesses. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, I know I said that we were going to talk about that analogy, the Last of the Jedi, the Star Wars thing, and well, I kind of lied again. We are going to talk about that, and I know at the time we were talking about how it was going to be a fun way of looking at it, but it's actually not going to be a funny subject. Actually, I'm looking forward to talking about that subject because that subject is very important to me when it came to my journey out of the Watchtower Society. So we will have fun with that, but this will give you more time to brush up on your Star Wars, because today we're not going to be talking about that. Because sometimes when I'm making videos, something else pops in my head and I'm thinking, I really want to talk about that because it just seems to not go away in my mind. So what are we going to talk about? Well, we're going to talk about why I would never be one of Jehovah's Witnesses again. Why I would never return to the Watchtower Society. Now, that's the title that I originally was going to give this video. But I gave it this other title. Would I tell them? Why is that? Is because the answer to that question, all the answers that we're going to give, are the reasons why I would never return to the Watchtower Society. Now, the next video, this video, and maybe the next one, they're going to be very depressing videos for me. And I'll tell you why. For a few reasons. First of all, if you were a born in, you didn't have a choice in many things. You did not have this list of things that I'm going to talk about. You didn't know about this list because after you were born, you were taught that it was the truth, and all of these things that we're going to talk about, they were slowly absorbed into your life. You didn't even think about them. But now, what about the person who, say they're 25 years old, the witnesses knock on their door, and they start a Bible study? Well, here's what's weird and depressing. That individual was never given this list of things that we're going to talk about. They were never given these things so that they could meditate upon them and then make a decision. No, rather, they became a Jehovah's Witness because they felt it was the truth, and then all of these other things were just slowly absorbed into them and they just accepted them. All right. Now, what is strange for me is that had people had this list, had you, as a born-in, knew about these things and gave thought to them, you would never have remained in that organization. And what's really creepy to me is, and this is what's depressing, is that, remember how I said that going into a kingdom hall creeps me out? Well, the longer I meditated upon these things, the more that has become true in my mind. The kingdom hall just keeps getting to be a darker and darker place. But in addition to that, what we're going to talk about is something that I was very conscious of. I knew what I was doing in a general way. And that's what makes this depressing. And normally I do not consistently keep calling the Watchtower Society a cult. But when it comes to this subject, I'm going to use that word, and you will know why. All right, let's get started. Would I tell them? Now, normally I don't have a list or anything that I need to make a video, but in this case, I am going to use a list because we have many things to mention, and I'm just going to say this list, the longer you're out, especially if you're a follower of Christ, this list will become endless. And what I'm thinking is today we're going to talk about the basic things, all right? We're going to talk about the basic things that people should know. And then tomorrow, or our next video, I think we're going to talk about the same subject, but with a few spiritual matters. All right, so let's get started. Would I tell them? Now, with that question, the full question is, would I tell them on their first Bible study? That's the question, but we're not going to keep saying that latter part. We're just going to say, would I tell them? All right? So let's go. Now, your beard, there's nothing wrong with having a beard. God created man to have facial hair. There's nothing wrong with that. However, once you become a witness, you may consider shaving it off because, one, you will not be able to have privileges, like you can never be an elder. And then on top of that, even if you didn't want to be an elder, the rest of the congregation, they'll see that beard and they'll think, oh, he's weak spiritually, or perhaps even a rebel. So as soon as you get baptized, you may really want to reconsider having that beard. Would I tell him that? Absolutely not. Why? Why would I not tell him that on that first day? Because I need to save him. Somehow, some way, I have to get this man into the cult. Our second one. Now, I noticed you're using a Bible translation. What is it? I think it's the World English Bible. Yeah, that's a good Bible. And, you can use whatever Bible you want because, all Bibles have the truth. The truth is found in every Bible. But I need to let you know about something, though, because when you finally become a witness, you're really going to have to switch over to the New World Translation because, first of all, the elders will take note of the fact that you're not using the New World Translation, and they may tell you that you're causing perhaps disunity in the congregation. We want to be a united people, because I'm an elder myself, so that's probably what they will tell you. And in addition to that, you'll hear how the New World Translation is more accurate, and you don't want to be perhaps spreading false doctrine in the congregation. So, we can use your Bible, for now, but as soon as you're a witness, you really should only use that at home. And also, too, I noticed that your World English Bible has the name Yahweh in it, and I personally love the name Yahweh. I like to use it in my prayers. I love the name. However, that's another reason why you don't want to use that Bible translation, because I know you've been saying Yahweh in your prayers and all your life, but in the Kingdom Hall and when you go out in the ministry, you'll have to say Jehovah, because if you keep using the name Yahweh, the elders probably are going to tell you that, first of all, we need to be united in the name we use for God, and also, two, we don't want to bring attention upon ourselves. So if we keep saying Yahweh, then it's going to bring attention to ourselves. Would I tell them that? Absolutely not. Because I need to do whatever it takes to get them into the cult. Let's move on. So the organization, we want to keep the organization clean. So we have what's called disfellowshipping. And, when you disfellowship someone, it's to protect the congregation. It's to protect them. And so that they can return to Jehovah. Now, that sounds good, doesn't it? But now, would I tell them? Now, if you have a child, or if you have children, let's say they're age 18, 19, 20, and they moved out of the house and they're baptized witnesses, but then they get disfellowshipped for various reasons, you will not be able to talk to them till the end of their life or the end of your life, unless they come back to the organization. Would I tell them that? Absolutely not. Why? Because I need to do whatever it takes to get them into the cult. Now, once a person is disfellowshipped, of course, we want them to come back, and we call that reinstatement. So here's what you have to do when you get reinstated. You write a letter telling the elders you want to be reinstated, give it to the elders, and then after that, they consider whether or not that's going to be possible. And so they will approach you and say, well, keep going to the meetings, and eventually this may happen, a reinstatement. So you don't know how long that's going to be. It could be 6 months, 10 months, it could be a year of going to the meetings, but That's their way of determining whether or not you're really repentant. So, and it's the only thing you can do, So you go to the meetings, and then eventually the elders will come to you, and they will speak to you about reinstatement. And if you are reinstated, then they'll talk to you about how you still can't have certain privileges, commenting and pioneering and all of that, because we need to make sure that you're repentant. So, would I tell them that? Absolutely not, because I need to do whatever it takes to save them and bring them into the cult. Our next one. I know you asked the question if, am I going to have to go out in the ministry? And you know something? Don't even worry about that question, because you're going to love God, you're going to love Jehovah and Jesus so much, and love all the wonderful truths that you're learning, that you're going to want to be in that ministry. But there is something I do need to tell you, and you do need to keep this in the back of your mind. We have a category, and I'm an elder, I know about these things. We have a category called low-hour publisher, and what that is, it's usually from 5 hours down. If you have 5 hours in the ministry or less, that makes you a low-hour publisher, which means your spirituality comes into question. And many times you will not be able to have certain privileges, certain responsibilities, because you have such low hours in the ministry. Now, if you're an older person, you can't do anything, then they may give you some consideration. But for the most part, even if the congregation knew that you were 5 hours less, they wouldn't look at you as a spiritual person. So just keep that in mind. Would I tell them what I just said? Absolutely not, because I need to do whatever it takes to get him into the cult. Next situation. So yes, the organization is progressive, and we like to adjust our beliefs, so that we can be more in harmony with God. But I need to tell you a few things, though. Like, let's say today you really cherish a certain belief, and you've been talking to people about it, and it excites you. If the governing body says, no, that's no longer true, we have to adjust it, then you have to immediately stop preaching it. Not just stop preaching it, you need to uproot it from your heart. Get rid of it and make the other new light your own. And also, too, let's say you disagree with it. You still need to preach it, and you just can't talk about your disagreement there. Would I tell them that? Absolutely not, because I need to do what it takes to get them in the cult. Next thing. You're not going to be in this congregation. Well, if you're only going to be in this congregation for like 6 months, because you said, if you become a witness, you might only be here 6 months because you're going to go to another congregation. Well, don't worry about it, because the elders, because I'm an elder, like I said, they'll write a letter about you, and maybe your family, what kind of family you are. I mean, you'll never know what's in the letter, but hopefully, it's a good letter about you. Would I tell them that? Absolutely not, because I need to do what it takes, whatever it takes, to get them into the cult. Next subject. No, some Jehovah's Witnesses are not like all the other churches. We do not have membership. No, we have no membership. We have something different, though. It's called baptism. When you're baptized, you're always considered a Jehovah's Witness until you disassociate yourself or get disfellowshipped. You could never just openly reject the organization. No, rather, if you ever want to leave, you have to leave in secret, just kind of, vanish slowly. Would I tell them that? Absolutely not. I need to make sure they are saved, make sure they get into the cult. Next thing. Now, we've already talked about the blood issue, how you can't take blood transfusions and all, but I think next week, I'm gonna come over next week, and you and I are going to spend about, hour and a half talking about medical issues, about medical procedures. We're going to talk about blood fractions, because there is a way around, this subject of blood transfusions, because you can take blood fractions, and we'll talk about what blood fractions are. We'll talk about what perhaps you can and cannot do, what your conscience allows. We'll talk about how if you don't like, if your conscience doesn't allow this, you can choose this over here, kind of like a buffet, you can just kind of choose. And yeah, we'll talk about medical procedures and all of that, blood fractions. We need to do that. Would I tell them that? Absolutely not, because I know if I tell them that, they will not join the cult. And I need to save them and do whatever it takes for them to join the cult. Now, our next one, would I tell them this? Yeah, I know you asked me about the history of the Watchtower Society. Charles Taze Russell, he would always visit the pyramids in Egypt, and he always believed that God spoke through those pyramids. And he would interpret the Bible through them. In fact, so much so, that's what he was known for. And so after he died, the second president of the Watchtower Society, he erected a pyramid, and within that pyramid was he put some information in there, some articles and all of that, and he built this pyramid right next to Russell's grave. And also too, he built this house called Beth Sarim, and he said that the dead, would come back to life and all come to this house. Would I tell them that? Absolutely not, because I need those people to be saved. I need to get them into the cult. Well, we're going to stop there for now, but I think you got the point. The reason why this was so important to me is because immediately after I left the Watchtower, I thought about these things, and I thought about how guilty I was. Like, I was totally aware that there were things I would never tell these people until they were convinced it was the truth and they became witnesses. Then I knew that naturally their life would be absorbed by all of these things, and they would still continue to believe it's the truth. So I purposely deceived. I lied. Deception is just another form of lie, to withhold information like that. So that really bothers me. You see, a person like myself, I found these lies in the Watchtower Society, but had I meditated just on these things and thought of it the way it was presented just now, I would have left that organization a long, long time ago. In fact, witnesses today, if they even just heard what we just demonstrated, many of them would think twice about what they're actually involved in, because there is a reason why you would never discuss those things on your first Bible study. In fact, you're never going to discuss those things on any Bible study. They're going to learn those things later on their own. So it's just something I feel very guilty about. But now, there's another part to this, and it's the spiritual aspect. There are some spiritual things that we withheld from them as well, and I am guilty of it. And all of this will keep me out of the Watchtower Society. Like I said, I found a lie in the Watchtower and all of this, but that's not even important. I didn't need to find any of that. I could have just reasoned on these things and left the organization. But these things are purposely hidden from the people. So next video, we're going to talk about some of the spiritual things we did not tell those people, or at least I didn't tell the people. And I withheld information from them on purpose. So I'm sorry, guys. This video is kind of depressing, I know, but this is something that really has affected me, and it has a lot to do with my journey out of the Watchtower Society, because once you leave the prison camp, you want to get as far away from it as possible, because if you don't, you may be tempted to go back. Now, I wouldn't be tempted to go back at all, but there are some that actually return to the prison because they have not thought things through. They have not done research. They have not meditated on all of the information that they have. So the next video, we'll talk more about this. I'll try to be a little bit more positive, but until next time, please like the video, subscribe, share the information with other people, because we really need to get this information out. And it's not just about getting the information out, because this, like I said, to share my story out of the Watchtower, to me, is a very exciting thing that I've been wanting to do. And I feel right now I'm at a good place in life in which I can do this with a clear mind. So, all right, we'll conclude the video there, and we'll see you next time.